Pretty, isn't it? Perfectly balanced, as all things should be.
Hey everyone, it's Darth Shigon, and welcome to another episode of Gaming on the Dark Side. Today's video is going to be part 2 of the Illusion of Balance series that we got going on here. A discussion on Dawn of Titan's meta, past, present, and future. Alright guys, now last week we covered a quick overview of the metas I've experienced since joining back in 2017. And you can see up here, there's a link. If you haven't seen that video yet, why don't you click on that first, watch that, then come back to this video because it'll help everything make way more sense. Now, this week's video is going to be covering my thoughts on why I think the Divine Titans are something that we should be studying when we want to look at the meta and overall balance, or the lack thereof in this case sometimes, with Dawn of Titans. Now, real quickly guys, the Divine Titans, for those that might be kind of new to the game, are the Titans that you get with the Divine Gems. Those are an in-game currency that you only earn by playing the game. And these Titans are supposed to be the creme de la crop of Titans, supposedly. Now, over the past 3 years, we've had several series of Divine Titans released into the game. Each one of these has, in a sense, helped, in my opinion, form the meta, or at least inform us what the meta should be at a given period within the game. Now, before Divine Titans were released into the game, the landscape was pretty eclectic, at least in my opinion. There was a lot of variety due to just the random nature of skills, right? Now, you had your basic classes of Titans, and all those Titans would have a certain thing that they did, right? For example, Champion Titans were self-buffing Titans that would give themselves either increased armor and resistance and attack skills. When you would have yourself, let's say, a Paladin Titan, those were self-buffing, but all in a pure defensive way. And those were the ones we would use to help guard our garrisons and lands, just like the Guardian Titans would boost troops in a way that make them defend themselves. So the whole thing was, though, that a lot of those Titans, the skills were completely random, right? You didn't really know what you were going to get. And they even had a thing called airplane mode for a lot of players, that what they would do is they would use a certain feature in the game, or I should say with their phone, to kind of re-roll and re-roll and re-roll over and over again until they got the skill sets they were kind of hoping for on their Titan. It wasn't something you were supposed to do, and it did cause some people to get in trouble, so make sure you guys don't do it. And then came Throne Wars. This was an awesome event, guys, I'm not gonna lie. But Throne Wars introduced us to the first Divine Titans. Back in December 14th, 2017, we got introduced to Arya and Irkon. These Titans were only obtainable with Divine Gems, and you can only earn Divine Gems at this point in the game with Throne Wars. There was nowhere else to get it at the time, so it would make these Titans exceedingly rare to have. You didn't really run into too many of these ones, and if you had one of these, definitely a status symbol. Alright, so Arya and Irkon. They were an attacker and a defender. Arya was an infiltrator, and Irkon was a guardian. Very strong solo attacking Titan in Arya, and a very, very strong defender in Irkon, where he buffed those Goliaths like crazy, especially if you got certain roles. It was great. Now, the whole thing was, though, at the time, we still had very random rolls. So it was possible to get a double resist Irkon, or even a triple resist, and you can have like just resist fire 3 times, and basically it'd be a waste because it wasn't covering. Now, if you got the perfect roll where it's spread out and you were able to get good resistances against 3-4 elements at a time, your Irkon was insane. So, like I said, these guys were kind of the epitome of the meta at the time, right? Where everything was dependent on the Titan. Back when Dawn of Titans was all about Titans, right? And these guys were the top of it, where you had just super strong titans that either boost yourself, like the infiltrator Arya, or to boost your Goliaths and even himself. They also introduced unique skills to the game. Like I said, before this, everyone had their place, right? Champions did what they did, Rangers did what they did. Everyone had a job, and they all kind of had the same basic pool of skills in a sense, based off of that job. These two Titans were the first ones to come in with unique skills. Arya had multiple skills with their first set, and Irkon with, I want to say it was a shield or something like that, was his first skill set. And these were the first time that we saw skills that actually did multiple things. You know, they didn't just buff one thing on them or one troop. They would do multiple things. So this was kind of like the precursor to what we have now, where you need a magnifying glass to read all the skills per level on your Titan. Now it was almost a year before we saw the next set of Divine Titans. Somewhere in January-ish, we've gotten Chernobog and Bellabog. And I call these like the Forgotten Titans, man. I almost forgot about these dudes when I was making the whole list of these things. Because as far as I know, there was no real hype on these dudes. I don't remember anyone going out and getting them. No one was looking for them. As far as I know, nobody liked you guys, right? So when they came out, man, they came out in the Age of X skills. And these Titans were pretty much already obsolete in the sense, and they weren't worth spending divine gems on, at least not in my opinion, and not from anyone I saw in the game. Now, some people might have gotten them because cosmetically they were different and they looked interesting. They did, I know with Chernobog, they did have a mixture of skills, right? Ice and lightning. So that was interesting. But, you know, you really weren't sure what they were good at, right? I mean, they didn't summon, and we had summons in the game, I think, already popping out. And like I said, I don't remember anybody having some big hype saying, oh, I want to get these guys. They're the ones we need to get. So just the forgotten set. So during this time in the meta, it was all about the other X-skilled and summoning Titans. The Divine Titans didn't play a role at all. It was almost a throwaway. And that was kind of disappointing to see. In more ways than one, not having very powerful Titans for Divine Gems, you know, just kind of a waste. Why would I spend divine gems for cosmetics on some Titans? I'd rather have some Titans that would help me do better at the game. But that's just my opinion. Now, roughly 6 months later, in July of 2019 or so, it looks like they're kind of getting on a roll now. They had another hit and miss, in my opinion, with Oni and Huntress. They introduced a new altar with new Divine Titans. But the whole thing is kind of the same old model they just did a second ago. Cosmetics over substance. Now, Oni and Huntress. In my opinion, these were a tribute to human troops because they both boosted human troops. And I'm not going to lie, I have kind of a hidden love for my human troops. And I really do enjoy any Titans that allow me to bring out my militia, my spearmen, and my archers. So in that case, these guys were pretty cool there. I remember one, Oni, he was a summoner, right? And all that. But even with that bit of summons he was able to do, he really wasn't worthy of the title Divine. Huntress, kind of the same thing. Now, these guys kind of came out pre-Horde, right? But Storm Maidens and Zeus were already out there just crushing stuff. So these didn't really bring any true answers to the meta, and they definitely weren't, in my opinion, something that would shape it. So what I mean by shaping the meta is, you know, I feel like Divine Titans should be kind of up there, right? They should be what you're kind of aiming for and what should be illustrative of the meta in the game at a given time. These two Titans definitely weren't it. They were introducing so many different things, lightning and then Horde coming out. These two Titans, just like the last two, Chernobog and Bellabog, got lost in the mix. I do not remember a lot of people, you know, running out to spend their divine gems on these Titans. So they were instead probably using them mostly like how I was, to buy relics. Get the 5-star relics, because those at least were useful, not like these dudes. And then the Golden Age came. Balance. Yin and Yang. Attack and defense. Relevance, longevity, finally, the devs seem to get it, and they seem to have understood what players had wanted and the direction that we wanted the game to move in when they brought us Lifespark and Necrosa. Now we're going to be talking about Lifespark and Necrosa for a pretty good little second here. First off, they were the epitome of yin and yang. These two titans are polar opposite of each other. One is like the apex predator attacker, and the other one was the apex defender, right? They were perfectly matched for each other. The way their skills were set up was they were basically an answer to either one, right? Not that they were undefeatable, right, by other regular titans, but for the most part, you needed Lifespark to take out Necrosa, and you needed Necrosa to defend yourself against Lifespark. And that was amazing in the sense when it came to these two divine titans. Now, Lifespark and Necrosa came out in the age of the Invokers. Now, the first invoking titan we had was Baba Yaga. She came out near the beginning of 2020. Lifespark and Necrosa were announced in March, and they were officially released in April. Now, these two titans were released pretty early in the new meta, and these two here were the apex, the pinnacle of the Invoker meta. You could just tell by their skills. They seemed so OP. However, they did usher in the War Gods. These titans, with Necrosa and Lifespark at the very top of the pyramid, were like I said, the golden age. Great titans, great designs, great skills. You had great defenders, you had great attackers, and it was fun gameplay. Everyone had a chance, depending on what they had. Nothing was unbeatable, but there definitely took skill to take out the higher up stuff, and that's important in the game. You need to have that balance between skill and fun. Now that balance was illustrated here in this pyramid, right? We've got the Divine Titans, right? Lifespark and Necrosa at the top of the pyramid. Then you have the War Gods. These were the ones that were released throughout this period in the game, and they were right here, right in the middle, man. They're freaking powerful, but not overly powerful, right? And then you had everyone else below that. And that pyramid was illustrative of the balance of this particular time in the game, in the meta, where, you have your regular titans that you have for, brand new players and players that are growing. They got those titans. And they would every, couple weeks toss out, not maybe a couple weeks, maybe once a month or something like that, they'd toss out a war god, and that guy would come out and just be awesome and give newer players and even older players a chance to get a great titan that can do a lot of damage and have fun to play with. But then for the players that were super dedicated to the game, put in the work, they were able to get those divine titans, Lifespark and Necrosa. And then that really just opened up the game for them to a whole other level, right? You needed Lifespark if you were going to be a war guy in Legends. If you could put Necrosa on your garrison, it would help you defend things. So that was an awesome way for the game to go, and you can see those Divine Titans really set the meta. Lifespark and Necrosa came out way before all the War Gods, right? And they came out before them, and as they were coming out that way, you can just sell their skills. Everyone was like, oh man, these guys are so overpowered. But as you saw the War Gods come out, you saw the level of power they had. It made Lifespark and Necrosa seem, hey, it wasn't so much of a jump. They weren't so OP, but they were definitely more powerful than your run-of-the-mill Titans you would get in regular events. It made the idea of saving up Divine Gems and spending your Divine Gems worth it. And that's important. And last, these Divine Titans were developed in a way and powered in a way and skilled in a way that makes them still relevant and useful past when their meta was supposed to end, right? We have this new meta that came in, and these guys are still great Titans. And I feel that's important for the amount of time it takes and stuff, to save up Divine Gems. You don't want to get those at the very end of a meta and then just be useless. That's horrible. They should still be relevant, I feel, for at least another meta, right? They should, for their main meta, and then still be relevant within the next meta coming out, and then slowly become, I guess, irrelevant. But It has to be there, man. Divine gems are hard to come by. It takes a lot of work. Don't just throw them away. So the direction at this point in time in the game was awesome. Balance seemed to be coming in, right? We finally had, quote unquote, game balance. And everyone was excited to see what the next Titan was going to bring to the game, how it was going to make the gameplay more eclectic and fun and interesting. You had Lifespark and Necrosa at the top, and people were rushing out and working hard to get their divine gems because they wanted those Titans so bad because, like I said, it was the meta and it was fun and everyone was enjoying it. But then people had to ask the question, wouldn't it be great if a new OP Titan came out to take out Hachiman? Attack! Batman had to slap us, guys, because boom! The Z virus dropped. Now, Z virus, or also known as Zabroken from my man vintage, we had Zabava here, the first of the Dragon Slayers. Now, she came out and decimated, and continues to decimate things left and right. All the Titans that we had were now deemed irrelevant, right? Obsolete. Crazy how quickly that happened. Literally overnight, things changed. The Metapocalypse was upon us. A complete meta wipe. Restart the game basically for almost everybody. Except if you were brand new and you hopped on, you happened to get Zababa as your first 4-star Titan. Well, hey, everyone else though was freaking out. But the sorcerers were on the rise. The Sorcerer Meta, possibly with these brand new Divine Titans, we got ourselves Growthorn and Nephilinus, 2 Sorcerer class Titans. Now, Sorcerer class Titans are basically a modified version of the Ranger class, the way they play in the game, but they supposedly would be the Divine Titans to save the game. But we've quickly seen that is not the case. We've already seen Zabava, Rostam, and now Tara Huns come into the game and kick sand in the face of these Divine Titans. So, I guess maybe they're not the apex of this meta. Maybe it will be the age of the Dragon Slayers. As you can see with Growthor and Nephilinus, they are definitely a yin and yang in the sense of attack and defend, but they're not the apex. The first Dragon Slayer, Zababa already came out and blew them out of the water. So that's why I'm thinking the Dragon Slayers may be the meta. These Sorcerer Titans introduce some interesting concepts with invoke skills and with some unique new units in the sense that they bring to the game, but they really don't bring much. The Dragon Slayers, however, have introduced to us the auras in their meta, and it seems like that's where we're really going towards. The Dragon Slayers are so overpowered in comparison to these the Divine Titans. It's almost like we're going back to Chernobog and Bellabog, Oni and Huntress, where we're looking at cosmetics over substance, and that's not the way I would really do it with Divine Titans and how they should go. We really should be looking at Lifespark and Necrosa. Whatever team developed those two and that period in the game, we need that team to be on point now and for the foreseeable future, and definitely for the next set of Divine Titans. Now, for some final thoughts on this. I started making this video months ago. I had my ideas when it came to the meta based off the Divine Titans. Now, this was when Lifespark and Necrosa were still at the apex before the Dragon Slayers. So I've had to kind of go back and fix some stuff with the dropping of Growthorn and Nephilinus. It's definitely thrown my original theory out the window. I thought that the developers had found that sweet spot with Lifespark and Necrosa, and they would continue to utilize that kind of model where the apex of any given meta would be introduced with those Divine Titans. They would seem extremely overpowered at first, but then as the meta matured and new Titans came out in the game, you would see that they are still very powerful, but they're not overpowered in comparison to the new Titans coming out within that meta for players to play in. But they would be powerful enough that they would be worth saving and then investing divine gems into. That was my thought. Nephilinus, Growthorn, threw that out, because you can get the Dragon Slayers in regular gameplay, not with divine gems. So what does that mean going forward? Not really too sure. I'm thinking that right now maybe they were unaware of how great they had it with Lifespark and Necrosa, and they're seeing the huge upheaval of players freaking out about what's happening into the game. And maybe that will be a wake-up call to the developers, and the next set of Divine Titans and the next meta will be a gradual change, right? It's not going to be this massive metapocalypse where everyone has to start all over again, somewhere you're able to move into. But that those Divine Titans will set the stage for the next meta, be those apex predators, right? Those apex Titans. And then regular Titans that come into the game will be strong, but not overpower the Divine Titans and make it seem like you're spending divine gems on them will be just a waste. Alright guys, well that's this week's video. Part 2 of my series here on balance, or the illusion of balance. Next week guys, we're going to get into the actual illusion of balance when it comes to gameplay balance versus the business model balance, and why it will always be a frustrating cycle for the players, guys. It'll be an interesting video. Like I said, I've been working on this thing for a while, so hope you guys like it. Thanks for sticking around. I know this video is longer than some of my usual videos, but I hope you guys liked it. If you did, definitely hit that like button. And if you're not subscribed yet, I hope today is the day I earn your subscription and you subscribe. That would be awesome. But other than that, I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on the relationship between the Divine Titans and the meta in this game and what you think it means for the future. Put those comments below. I would love to interact with you and get to have some conversations. Alright guys, this is Dar Shigong, Gaming on the Dark Side, and I will catch you in game.